So I have a question for the audience before I start my talk. How many of you started college or university when you were in your late teens or early 20s, or are thinking about doing that now? So a good number of you. And for those of you who raised your hand, how many of you thought it was the greatest time of your life? Almost, almost the same. Well, I was in college when I was 19 years old, and I thought it was the greatest time of my life. It was that precipice between adolescence and adulthood. It was we're finding our voice, we're doing our own thing, we're studying what we want to study. And at 19, I thought I was invincible and the life of the party. However, that junior year of the fall of my junior year in college, things shifted. I started withdrawing from my friends. They didn't know what was going on. They didn't know how to talk to me or act around me. But something was different. I was staying in my room more, and I had no idea how I was going to tell anyone that I was pregnant. So at 19, I thought, how can I tell my parents? What does this mean for my future as an actress? What would my friends think about me carrying a baby? I was terrified by the thought that I was pregnant. At night, I would beat my stomach so hard that I thought I could beat the baby out of me. But there was no baby. There was no baby. I wasn't even sexually active, let alone carrying a child. But this was the first of many delusions that my head would tell me, and the voices in my head would tell me were true. Even though I knew it wasn't possible, I still believed it with every fiber of my being. Schizophrenia is a disease of thoughts. A lot of people misconstrue it for multiple personality disorder or what's today known as dissociative identity disorder. But it's not, it's something totally different. Schizophrenia is marked by three main clusters of symptoms: positive symptoms, negative symptoms, and cognitive symptoms. The cognitive symptoms are simply thought based. They affect your ability to process information and they affect your memory. Sometimes my friends will say, "Oh, Tara, do you remember when we did this?" And I'll say, "No, sadly, I don't remember that." Positive symptoms don't mean that they're good. It just means the addition of something. So it can be hallucinations, it can be auditory, visual, they can be delusions, you can be paranoid, you can be roughly disorganized, and you can lose touch with reality. And the negative symptoms mean the absence of something. So it's lack of motivation, it's apathy, it's lack of affect, all things I've struggled with over the course of my adult life. So let's back up to again when I was 19. I was far too young for anybody to understand what was going on in my head. So I went home to my family doctor and I said, "I don't understand. I have this fantasy baby. What's going on?" And he diagnosed me with anxiety. Sure, the thoughts were causing anxiety, but that wasn't the underlying delusion. So I got through college. I somehow mustered enough energy to get my degree. I bounced around for a while, working at jobs. I managed to live in New York City on my own at 21. But then when I was 23, something again shifted. That was when self injury came into my life. The voices in my head were telling me to hurt myself. Do this, they said, and you will get better. Do this, they said, and all of your problems will go away. Do this, they said. Enough is enough. You have to stop living in this pain and anguish. And by burning your flesh, that'll make it go away. So I listened to the voices and I started harming myself on a regular basis. While my friends from high school and college were off getting married and having babies, I was bouncing from one hospital to another hospital, just looking for some kind of wellness, but it never came. At 23, I was taking 23 pills a day. None of them did anything to help me. But then something shifted. I was on disability. I had no life. Basically, what I was doing is sitting around, drinking coffee, and smoking cigarettes. But I wanted something better for my life. I wanted stability. I wanted to be normal. So I decided to go back to work. This was against all doctor's orders. They told me that I would never work again. They told me that I would be on disability for the rest of my life. And they told me basically to avoid stress because stress is what causes all this. But I said no and I went back to work. And then I went on and got my master's degree. And then I went on and started working in the field that had once really betrayed me because it was my goal to change the system from within the system. So that's what I do today. I lost my voice when I got sick. I had lots of loud voices telling me what was going on. And I'm going to read you a little snippet of what it's like in psychosis. I wrote this down when the doctor said, write down everything that's going on in your head. This is a little snippet of what came out. Knock, knock. Who's there? Brain. Are the worms eating my brain again? Well, maybe just filled up with fluid. Feels full like my gut. Too much weight. Not helping. Helper. That's me, but I can't now. Bread and water, not even deserving a bath. Warm and wind are sailing north. Should be going south like my head. Wish I could fly off somewhere to escape. Pina colada. Rain. It's drowning out the voices in my head. They're loud and trying to take over. Over, under. Like the blanket tents I used to make in my basement. Childhood. That was a less scary time. Time keeps on slipping and slipping and slipping. But this wasn't supposed to get better as I got older? Older like movie stars? What is the oldest star? Can I see it? Is it named after me? I wrote that during a particularly bad psychotic break, and it went on and on and on. Actually, it was a few pages long. And my doctor said, yes, you need to go in the hospital. Because that's what I would do. I would have a break and I would go in the hospital. But luckily, this time it was a quick fix. I knew what medication worked for me, and I told the hospital staff, I found that voice. I found that voice to advocate for myself and to say, this is what I need. This is what's going to make you better. If you think that it was just medication that made me better, it wasn't. It was a lot of different things that really put my life into balance. It was finding ways to intentionally move my body. It was about finding a community that I could integrate and become a part of. It was about using tools like meditation, mindfulness, and journaling. It was about yoga. It was about finding my spiritual side. It was about making friends and having family that supported me. So all those things. All those things were radically important to my self-care. Self-care was the one thing that I had that I could rely on. Not just bubble baths and pedicures, but really changing the way that my life looks. I wanted to heal from within. I wanted to heal inside. We're all intrinsic healers. We all have the power to heal ourselves. We all have the ability to have a life. Despite disability, despite schizophrenia, you have the ability to create a life that brings you joy. You have the ability to make life what you want it to be. It's not just about wellness tools. It's not just about coping skills. It's about all those things in your life that fill you up with joy and bring you to a place of hope and radical resilience. I use the term radical resilience because I really feel like that's what it is. It comes from within, and we all find our own personal medicine that helps us feel better. It's not just pills. It's not just what we do. It's who we are. And once we start reliving that, and once we start integrating that into our being, we can fully come to live again. Thank you all so much for coming to listen. And the best that we can do is when we see someone talking to themselves, when we see someone off in a corner, don't walk on by. They might be the last person you believe that you can make a connection with, but that person might be the person that needs you the most. Schizophrenia is not just a disease of the brain. It's a disease that affects your whole life. And I've been living with this for the past 30 years. So when I see you, I know that you will understand my story. And I hope that this story inspires you and brings you hope. Thank you.